The following is a production of cprundown.com. The views and opinions expressed by the host of this podcast are those of the individual and not of any affiliated companies. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rundown on Fun, a weekly podcast covering the Cedar Fair Entertainment Company, the amusement industry, and the business of fun. Here are your hosts, Karsten Anderson, Evan Schultz, and Kyle Hu.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Rundown on Fun, a weekly podcast where we cover Six Flags, Cedar Point, and everything food fun. And Karsten, it does seem like we're down a host tonight, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately we are, but we do have a special surprise here in just a little bit, just to key in a little excitement for it. But we're obviously Evan is a little sick, so he couldn't make it with us tonight. But Kyle, I do say this. I think we're scratching and clawing for something to talk about and keep the podcast going, at least right now. I know next week, like IAPP will be happening and stuff. There'll be a lot more things to talk about. And we'll talk about everything that we said we were going to talk about in our group chat. But yeah, so without further ado, there's like a few little news snippets, and then we will just jump right into our special guest that we've got on tonight to fill in Evan's shoes. I think she's actually, I believe, the very first female that we've had on the podcast. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think you are wrong. I think Maya came on, remember, before they went to Universal?
Okay.
So she's number 2.
I've got a really, really bad memory, so apologize to Maya. But yeah, so anyway, really, really quickly, we do have our brand new 2025 CP Rundown calendar. They just launched a few days ago. You can purchase that at cprundown.com/store. You can check out and see all the photos that were added. We've got I love the cover photo. I don't know if you had a chance to check it out, Kyle, but we've got Rougarou on the cover photo and Millennium Force. It's not main hill, but it's secondary hill or whatever in the background and things like that. And
I'm looking through it right now. That's a good shot of Rougarou with Millennium in the back.
Yeah. So like I was talking to you guys and to Evan. I was like, I always look for like really, really unique photos. And I was like, you got your Rougarou where you've got literally, you can see the hill and whatever. It's like, it's outplayed, at least for me. So I'm like, I always look for something different. And I saw this and I was like, ooh. And then I was behind the curtain a little. I was actually like trying to experiment because I didn't know which photo I wanted to go with for the cover. And I was going through and I was like, ooh, that really, really pops. So definitely go on our website, check out all the photos. They are in order of what they'll look like on the calendar. Normally I take a picture of like the month and also like what the calendar looks like. I didn't do that this year because I worked on this probably for a good 7 hours. It wasn't really 7 hours trying to put it all together with like the photos and picking the photos. What I did actually this year, and I'm curious to see, and hopefully everything lines up with everything of the alignment because it's got wiring in the middle, is I actually added, they used to have it, but they got a new a new calendar, I guess, editor thing, and they don't do it anymore. So you can't do like a cool little photo caption on the actual photo, to where I painstakingly, and it wasn't easy because it wasn't like just pretty much drag and drop a photo in, like copy paste, because all the photos were different with different sizes and different things. So I had to make sure I had pretty much like the right sizes. And then in order for me to do that, I had to upload the calendar to the website that we use and then pretty much publish the calendar and get like a preview of a PDF of like, this is what your calendar is going to look like after all of like the margins are set and everything. Anyway, long story short, everybody's got photo credit on the actual photo. So if you took the photo, literally right there on the page, it's literally right there. So your name's literally right there. Before, for the past few years or whatever, we've been doing a back cover and having the names on the back cover. But this year, like I said, I took like 7 hours to do that. But
I like it.
check out some of the.
There's some good shots in there. The one of
Yeah,
the one
I
that
was gonna
Britt
say
took
there's
of
there's some really
Vengeance.
cool shots like of the solar, not the solar eclipse, but the
The Northern
what is
Lights.
yeah, the northern lights. You can see Magnum. You can see some stars in the background. Got some really cool. I got a really cool picture when Justin rode the giant wheel with me when he was scared to death. Really cool picture of the fireworks of Gatekeeper and everything from up top on the giant wheel. You can also see someone. Oh my goodness. Angela like submitted one of these photos that was like from the beach, and you like see that photo from the beach and you're like, yeah, that's Cedar Point. But if you didn't know that was Cedar Point, it almost looks like a boardwalk. Like you feel like it's actually pretty cool. But definitely check it out. We've got some really cool, a picture of Gemini that's like not normally like a normal photo that you would see of Gemini and stuff. Someone like zoomed in on it and you can kind of see Top Throw 2 in the background and everything. So check it out. cprundown.com/store. They're $17.75 plus shipping. If you order more than one, you can save a few bucks on shipping and things like that. So, and
I know
yeah,
that
and then
I know that normally you take them to the Great Ohio Coaster Club holiday party. Are you planning on doing that this year?
yeah. So I am signed up to go to that party. So if you do want to save a few bucks and you don't want to have to pay shipping, I will have those calendars for sale for $15. And I'll have a sales table and. Come say hi to me, if you're listening to the pod, and I'll be there and everything like that. What's sad is switching gears here a little bit is Bay Harbor at Cedar Point. Everybody knows like Bay Harbor. It's like the kind of like the fancy restaurant that you can go and get like, I don't know, real fancy stuff. And you kind of like want to not dress up, but you want to like, be more dressied, I guess you could say. Well, anyway, they announced that Bay Harbor is closing, at least they didn't say forever. They just said for this off season, and they'll open back up for an opening day whenever Cedar Point decides to announce that. They haven't announced that yet, but they'll be closed this winter. Normally they're open with a select amount of hours in the off season, and they're actually going to be closed. And I'm curious, and and Evan's not here, but I'm curious. I'm like, I wonder if they're closing because obviously, you've got Sirens Cruise construction pretty much going on like right around in that area with I'm sure there's probably track and supports and not supports, but track and supports and things like that. So it's like, I wonder if it's because they're going to be doing a lot of crazy construction, or if they're also going to have they're going to need that area and things like that, or if it's just like a staffing issue, or they're just deciding not to stay open in the off season and whatever. But anyway, if anybody wants to, today will be Saturday when we release this. So tonight will be the last time that Bay Harbor will be open until Cedar Point opens for the 2025 season. Kyle, have you been to Bay Harbor before?
I have. I've eaten there a few times, and then the summer that I worked in the marketing department, we did a half-day shoot there, and we got to try a bunch of the food. It was really good. I never went too often. Normally, if my family was at the park and we decided that we were gonna eat and actually eat a big meal, normally Famous Dave's was our go-to. Mm-hmm. So we never made it to Bay Harbor all that much, but I have been there before.
Yeah, so I might go to Bay Harbor this weekend just to try it out because I've never tried it, and then because I feel like if I don't try it now, I probably won't try it during the season, kind of thing. That's just me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so definitely go check out Bay Harbor. It's got really great views of, Millennium Force. I know I've seen pictures of like Millennium Force, in the glass windows and things like that, and it's right over there on the bay. So
yeah. Totally speculation, but if I had to guess, I would think it's probably a mix of all of the reasons you mentioned. Not many people coming on the peninsula, staffing, major construction right there. It's probably a little bit harder to keep the restaurant open in the winter too, just because you're not going through the same amount of food that you were. I bet there's a multitude of reasons as to why this is happening. But it is worth noting that in the meantime, the Miller's Table at Sawmill Creek Resort will be open year-round.
Yeah, I mean, Evan and I were able to participate in that when we went for Top Thrill 2 Media Day, and we had a few drinks, and they had some food items and stuff like that, some burgers and things like that. So, I also wonder, maybe they're gonna possibly redo this whole entire area, and maybe that'll redo this whole building and have it be brand new. I mean, who knows? There's a lot of irons in the fire. Like, there's a lot of things going on, and we'll talk about that next week. That we've been hearing from the park and things like that. But yeah, so go check it out one last time in the off season, and maybe it'll be back next year. Who knows? But anyway, I think we've stalled long enough for everybody that's curious on who our special guest that we've got tonight to replace Evan. Kyle, you wanna introduce her?
So our special guest tonight is my girlfriend Ray. Say hi, Ray.
Hello.
So the reason I wanted to bring her on the show was because when we started dating a little over 2 years ago, she was not really interested in theme parks or amusement parks at all. Obviously, we live in Orlando, the theme park capital of the world. So we would go to Disney quite a bit, but she really was not interested in going to any other parks or riding any rides or anything like that, really. Where did you grow up? What was your home park?
So I grew up about 30 minutes away from Holiday World. And to be honest, I actually had no clue that Cedar Point was a thing until I met Kyle over here. And I had heard about the Kings Island parks. And then I've been to Kentucky Kingdom once in my life. But like Kyle said, I've been going to Disney pretty much the majority of my life. I mean, I never even went to SeaWorld or Universal until I met him. So when he started talking about Cedar Point and all of these different parks, I'm like, what are you talking about? I have no clue these places even exist.
Well,
now,
go ahead.
I was going to say, did you like when Kyle said Cedar Point, where you're like, what is that? And then did you look it up and you're like, oh my God, what is all of these coasters?
So when Kyle first introduced me to Cedar Point, he started talking about how he did a lot of social media like he does here in Orlando. And so I thought, oh, it was just this cute little hobby he did. No, I was completely wrong.
Okay.
So she, like she just mentioned, before we met, she had been to Holiday World, which I don't believe you had very good feelings on.
Holiday World was a very interesting park. Let's just leave it at that.
What was your favorite coaster?
Surprisingly, it was the Legend.
Ooh, okay. I actually like the Legend. That's a fun coaster.
That thing about 15 times in a row, but I hated the Voyage.
Yeah.
Okay.
You had been to Kentucky Kingdom. Now, do you remember what year that was?
Oh, I was in middle school, so honestly not.
Okay. So probably when Six Flags still owned it, I would imagine.
T3, baby.
So yeah, prior to us meeting, she had been to Disney, Kentucky Kingdom, and Holiday World. And that was kind of it, and that was kind of all she was interested in, was keeping it at those three. But, with me, obviously, I co-host this podcast. I work in theme parks. I visit theme parks. They are my passion. They are my main hobby. It's what I do in life. It didn't take long before I started trying to find out, like, what her kind of limits were, and then just ever so slightly pushing them. So I think, well, and another thing, too, is your comfort zone on coasters is a lot different than most people.
Yeah, I see. I have what I call rules for when I get on coasters. My main rule that I'm still trying to conquer is going upside down. I went upside down once on a coaster, and I did not enjoy any second of it. And then again, it all depends on the coaster, I guess. And then it was your feet couldn't dangle. There had to be something underneath your feet. I was very kid coaster like, but then as Kyle got me on more coasters, I realized, okay, these aren't gonna kill me like I think they are.
Yeah, so
I was gonna say they're very safe. Yeah, I think you have a better chance of getting in. Maybe struck by. I could be wrong, but I think there's like a better chance of getting struck by lightning than getting hurt on a coaster.
normally the one that I always see is you have a higher chance of getting injured in your car on the way to the park than you do at the park.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, we started kind of pushing those boundaries. So like she said, her rules were she didn't want to go upside down, and she didn't want her feet to dangle. Other than that, everything else was pretty much on the table.
Okay.
So I think the first park I probably took you to was probably Universal and Islands.
Yes.
And I think we rode like Mummy. I think we rode Gringotts.
We rode Hagrid's.
Hagrid's was funny actually because I didn't tell her about the drop track on Hagrid's.
Hey, you know what? It's okay because none of my friends, when I first rode it, I had no idea there was drop track, and that was freaking awesome.
So that one was interesting. It did not go well for about 10 minutes. After that, it was fine.
Yeah, I love it ever since. I know that it happens.
Right?
But the first time,
yeah.
he almost ended up single.
Yeah. And like she mentioned, she is trying to get over the fear of going upside down. We had a big breakthrough the other day. We were at Busch Gardens, Tampa. And she sat down in the seat of Cheetah Hunt and pulled the restraint down and got buckled in and then decided she did not want to do it.
Oh.
Yeah, I got real close.
But we were almost there, so maybe next time. But yeah, since meeting me, we've now been to obviously all 4 Disney parks, Universal, Islands of Adventure, Volcano Bay, if you want to count Volcano Bay. We've been to SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, Aquatica, if you want to count Aquatica, Cedar Point, Kings Island, and we currently have trips booked to Dollywood and potentially Six Flags Over Georgia and also Fun Spot Atlanta. Oh, you've been to the 2 Fun Spot parks too.
Unfortunately, I've been to the 2 Fun
She's been
Spots.
to the 2 Fun Spot parks.
I only go to one for a cat named Bumper, so...
Yeah, the kitty cat.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was gonna say, make sure that when you do go to Dollywood, that you ride Kyle's favorite coaster, the Fire in the Hole.
Yep.
I will never ever forget. And Kyle, I'm sad that you weren't there, but when we had Coaster Con there a few years ago with Ace, it was rained out. It was so bad. It was so bad. Like literally, it rained pretty much the whole entire one of the days, and we were supposed to have like ERT, exclusive ride time, on a bunch of different coasters, but there was a bunch of lightning in the area. So the only coaster that really was open was Fire in the Hole. I kid you not. I think Justin will have to vouch for me or whatever. I think we rode it almost like 30 or 40 times in a row without getting off because we didn't have anything else to do.
I remember him telling me about that.
It was something. It was something.
But yeah, you've made some pretty good strides.
Yeah, I really think
coasters.
I have in not only just like riding rides, but also knowing too much about them. Because of all the interesting things he tells me, not only just about like his job, but also roller coasters and listening to this podcast and hearing him ramble on about roller coasters.
Yeah, so. No, I mean it's more than just like coasters and stuff. Like, you get into the nitty gritty and you can kind of like see like I, for instance, yes, I love roller coasters and I love amusement parks, but I really, really love to people watch. That's like one of my favorite things to do is walk around the park and stuff and just people watch and just see like how everybody like interacts with everybody or, so on and so forth. Because it's fun.
But the main reason I wanted to bring her on tonight was because we took a trip this summer back in August. And, for everyone that listens, that I used to live not too far from Cedar Point. My parents still live there, so we went back to Ohio this summer to visit my parents. While we were there, we visited a day at Kings Island, 1 day. Ooh. And we did 3 days at Cedar Point, actually. When we paired that with a stay in Hotel Breakers in a rotunda room. So really, I just wanted to kind of have her on and talk about the perspective of going to a place like Cedar Point for the first time as an adult.
Yeah.
Versus how us and everybody else listening to this podcast, we go to Cedar Point all the time, day in, day out. It's what we think about. It's what we're caught up on. But her case is a little bit different. she literally a year ago or two knew nothing about the place, and now she's spending 3 days there. I really just wanted to hear about that perspective, and also, accommodating her rules of, at the time, not going upside down, no feet dangling, stuff like that. The no feet dangling rule actually got broken at Kings Island, didn't it?
It did, and I absolutely, that rule is no longer on my rule list, so it's just, right now, it's, the only rule is not going upside down, which I will conquer eventually.
Okay. Well, that's good, though. I mean, I'm sure we've got listeners out there that, they might have almost some, like, these same rules or something like that, too. I know this is totally not theme park related, but I know a friend that literally, she has a rule that she like drives, but she's very nervous about driving. So she won't drive on any of the highways, like main highways. She'll actually drive like country roads because she's a little scared, but she's working her way up to that and things like that. So it's like, but you never know who is listening, and you might touch somebody and be like, oh my goodness, maybe, I can make this chart or something and, conquer more of these fears.
Exactly. That's my hope. So we're not going to ramble too long here, but I would kind of like to go through our days. We'll condense Cedar Point into one and just talk about everything we rode. But our day at Kings Island and, our day at Cedar Point, and talk about, whether or not you were scared, how, if you weren't scared, how you enjoyed different rides, just in hopes that maybe it'll help somebody. So starting our trip, I went to Cedar Point first because I did not travel both directions with you. But together, we went to Kings Island first on this trip.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That drive was not a fun drive. We left very early in the morning. And it was, 2 hours?
It was about 2.5, a little over 2.5 hours. So for local Northwest Ohio listeners or Northeast Ohio, my parents live in Tiffin. So it took about 2.5 hours to get to Kings Island. And we did the drive both ways in the same day.
Ooh. And we did get, what was the fast lane? We got the...
Yes. So I should point out that at Kings Island, we visited the week after they stopped daily operations. So the weekend, we had to go on a Saturday because it was the only day that was going to work out when we were there. And the Saturday that we went was the first Saturday of weekend-only operations. We were expecting... I mean, you know how many times I've been to Kings Island. We can predict that park's crowds pretty well. I was expecting it to be mobbed. Honestly, we walked out at the end of the day a little disappointed that we even bought Fastlane because it really was not terribly busy at all. But, we had that peace of mind. And for the bigger rides that she didn't ride, it allowed me to get through the line a lot quicker, so she wasn't sitting by herself. But starting at Kings Island, Adventure Express, the Arrow Mine Train. We rode Adventure Express, and I don't think you liked it.
Now here's the thing. You can tell my favorite ride at Holiday World's the Raven. I, for some reason, absolutely love old, janky, wooden roller coasters. I love the way that it throws you around on rides because it feels like, are you going to stay in your seat? We'll find out when you're not at the station. But the Adventure Express almost felt too shaky. Now, I can see the theme was great. I loved the whole idea of you're not supposed to go down there, and you end up going down there. But it almost felt a disorienting shaky to where when I got off of it, I was like, was that a ride on purpose, or was it just me?
So, now, for clarification... go ahead.
I was going to say, did you ride it at night or during the day?
During the day.
And for clarification, we didn't pick our row. They were grouping, and they were not accommodating row requests. So we rode on a wheel seat about 3/4 of the way back on the train. So we did not have a great seat to begin with. But yeah, I enjoyed it, as I always do. I think it's a really good mine train, but she did not have such favorable opinions. Next up at Kings Island. Oh, did you have any questions?
No, I'm just sad that she didn't get to ride it at night because that night and day is completely different on that ride.
I know. I was a little upset we didn't get to stay at Kings Island, or at night, but they had already ended their drone show for the year, and we had a really long drive, so we did not.
That makes sense.
We did not stay until it got dark. Next up was Backlot Stunt Coaster.
I absolutely loved this ride. I'm not gonna say it correctly, so all the coaster people out there who get nitpicky, I don't care. I'm not a coaster person, but the spiral that goes up is one of my favorite elements that was in the coaster because it was so unexpected to come from like that initial go to, oh, watch out, you're going up real fast.
Yeah, no, that definitely has a lot of G's too. Like it's pretty intense, but it's fun. I agree.
It felt very like cute and kitty on the outside when you were looking at it. When you got on it, you're like, oh dear Lord, this is gonna make me dizzy, and I'm gonna love it.
Yeah.
All right.
Good stuff.
Next up, I'm only going to talk about rides that we both rode together.
That's fine.
So let's see. We did not do Diamondback. We did technically go up in the Eiffel Tower.
Yes, we did.
So did you like the Eiffel Tower?
I do.
Were you scared?
No. Heights don't really scare me as much.
Okay.
I do like that it's a smaller quote unquote version of the real Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting center point to look at.
Okay.
But I do like how you could go all the way to the top and look around the park and get a good, either like you can look at it and go, oh, this is what I'm going to ride here, or this is where this is. You get a good overview before you can start your day.
Our friend Justin literally like ride it all the way up, and he'll be like, well, I'm getting in line for the thing to go back down. Literally, he'll go up and
I told her that story on the way up.
Yeah.
In the elevator on the way up.
But then he also told me about how you all got stuck one time on the way down.
Carson, I don't know if you were with us, but I did get stuck up there with a group of people one time for like 45 minutes.
I think that was like opening day.
It was opening
weekend.
And
it was cold.
Windy and rainy and cold.
Yeah.
I didn't tell her that till we got off.
I was like, thanks, dude. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. It's if you stand like on the tower or whatever and don't move, you can kind of feel it wiggle a little.
Oh yeah, you can feel it wiggling even if you're just not walking very fast.
Yeah. So next up is one of my favorite rides at Kings Island, and I think this did end up being your favorite ride at Kings Island. I think. I might be wrong. But that is Mystic Timbers.
Yeah, he's right. Mystic Timbers did end up being one of my absolute favorites rides we did. Like I said, I do like old wooden roller coasters and the way it throws you around. But this one didn't throw me around like it was trying to kick me out of the car. And the music at the end and did we get the tree at the end?
We did. We got the tree ending.
The tree ending.
Oh, okay.
All of those really cute things, like in the Don't Go in the Shed, and all of those really fun little touches that they did were always such a cool aspect to go, oh, look at that. I didn't, that's something cool to look at now, and I can go back and look at it and ride it again maybe, and go, oh, I didn't see that before, but I would definitely get on that ride.
It's a fun ride for sure. I love that it's open for Winterfest too, which will be starting here in the next few weeks at Kings Island. So,
I believe the Racer's open this year too, right?
It is, yeah, that is. And then also, the Eiffel Tower. It's not open during Winterfest, but they turn that whole entire tower into a huge Christmas tree. They have a bunch of LED lights that like hang from the top and go all the way down and stuff, and do all kinds of cool little designs and stuff and everything. Really, really cool.
So next up was the newest ride at Kings Island, Snoopy's Soapbox Racers.
Okay.
This ride was absolutely too adorable for its own good. I'm not a kid. But I am a kid at heart, and so seeing that Kids Land was like, oh, this is a really nice open area for kids. And then we did Snoopy's Soapbox Racers, and this is probably the easiest coaster to get into. Like, to sit down, to stand up, to get out, to get in. Mm-hmm. There have platforms that'll raise next to the car, and then it'll lower when they get ready to launch. And with most kids, like roller coasters, sometimes the seats are uncomfortable for adults. This one, I could probably carry on like 5 pounds of luggage with me and still be comfortable in these seats. The ride was cute. The little Snoopy spinning was adorable. But I would so ride that ride like all day if I could.
Yeah, we did ride it. I think we rode it 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. And I know that, Carson, you and Evan had said that you guys like Good Gravy better, but we've not been on Good Gravy. But, I mean, for what it's worth, we absolutely love Snoopy Soapbox Racers. It was such a good addition to that park.
And this is great, too, because, like, I mean, we're like, oh, you know, we got to have the newest, biggest, fastest, tallest, whatever. And she's just like, I like the 20-foot coaster. Like, I don't know if it's 20 feet, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not...
Yeah, because...
Everybody's different.
You can still get like the thrill of I'm going down 100 feet upside down, stupid fast on the coaster of Snoopy, wanting to race soapboxes. It's just, you know, I like that variety.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it.
Next up, we tried to ride the Bat. We were next in line for the Bat. You know, we had already gotten grouped, and it went down for weather. It went down for wind.
It got too windy.
Yeah, the trees were actually starting to hit the track, so they shut it down.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So we did not get the Bat, and we didn't hike back there because, you know, it's like a half mile each way.
It is a while.
That is the ride. The ride is the walk.
And we were still going to Cedar Point, so I was like, you know what? We'll get Iron Dragon at Cedar Point. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
So next up is the Beast. Now, Ray didn't actually get to ride the Beast. At this point in the day, it was very, very hot, and it was
getting ready to rain,
and she was starting to not feel great. Another thing to mention too is her not having grown up or visiting theme parks. Her stamina at theme parks is not you know as something like me and you, Karsten. You know, she doesn't stay all day. She takes breaks, which there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
But this was one of those points where she was ready to take one of those breaks. So I went and rode the Beast, and even though I thought it was a great ride, I thought it was running a little rough, and I actually made the decision to recommend that she not ride because I thought it was very rough, and that is a very long ride if you are uncomfortable. And what I didn't want to happen was one bad experience at Kings Island to not only ruin the rest of our day, but our days at Cedar Point.
Yeah.
My mom's been to Kings Island herself, and she was like, "You've got to ride the Beast." And then I came home, and she's like, "Did you ride the Beast?" I said, "No." She said, "I can't believe you didn't ride the Beast."
Yeah, that's a great ride.
So we have 2 more attractions at Kings Island that we both rode. Next up is the Racer, and I actually think this was your favorite, wasn't it?
Mystic Timbers is still my
Mystic
favorite,
Timbers
but
was?
the Racer was cool. We did not get to ride the red side because the red side was down both times we tried it, but and it didn't even run when we were on the ride too, but we rode the blue side both times. Again, it's one of those old wooden knock you around roller coasters that I could ride 20 times in a day and never get over it. I absolutely loved every ride on it, and the fact that you could still hear the coaster going, you're like, oh, that doesn't sound safe at all, but it is.
Yeah.
It was also really, really fun.
She's talking about the up-stop wheels once you hit the brake.
Oh, the little ting, ting.
Yeah. It sounds like bolts are falling off, but it's not. I love that sound. And the last ride we did was, again, in the kids area. It was the... it
was Woodstock's Air Rail, and this was actually the ride that broke
my feet dangling.
The no feet dangling rule.
Yeah. Because it was a kids ride, and your feet do dangle, and you're below the track. And I think if you're out there and you're very unsure about riding a ride that could, quote-unquote, break something you're comfortable with, try it on a kids ride.
Yeah.
Whether it's a drop tower or something like this where your feet dangle, you can ride it and you're like, okay, if this 4-year-old can get on this ride, it's fine for me to do it too. And now I absolutely love rides where my feet dangle, like Penguin Trek and Phoenix Rising. Those types of rides where I'm clearly secure where I'm at, but my feet are just kind of there for the ride.
Yeah, we both just rode Phoenix Rising at Busch Gardens Tampa either last week or the week before, and she loved it. I mean, it was
absolutely loved it.
It's a lot of fun. I love it too. But anyway,
before we move on to Cedar Point, we did have the blue ice cream.
Ooh.
From Kings Island, and I hate to say this for all your Kings Island lovers out there, it was not good.
She did not like
it. No.
It tasted like cotton candies with blueberries, and it was just so much of a sweetness that I guess, sure, kids are going to want a sweet thing, and if you're into really sweet things, fine. But it was just so sweet, and I was like, it's hot. I don't want something
fair.
this sweet in this hot weather.
She was not a fan.
Fair.
So, Karsten, that is everything we rode at Kings Island. Do you have any questions about any rides or just our day in general? Anything like that?
No, I don't think, not at Kings Island. I
right.
don't think I have anything.
One final point about Kings Island. I am an animal lover, and there was geese everywhere at Kings Island.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to take one home. But of course we couldn't, so I just kind of stood there, and like when Kyle was on a ride, I was just normally watching the geese.
Aw.
At Kings Island.
Well, at least you can, you could check out the geese and,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Geese don't like me. They chase me, so.
So, next up is Cedar Point, and to set the stage a little bit, we had decided that we were going to visit for 3 days.
Okay.
But we were going to break those 3 days up. So we did a night in a rotunda room at Hotel Breakers, a park day, and then we took a day of rest at that point, and then another park day, and then another day of rest followed by another park day.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so we did 3 days, but we had a day in between each park day to rest, relax, whatever. So the day that we checked into our hotel at our hotel room at Hotel Breakers was the closing night of Boardwalk Nights.
Oh, yeah, that I remember this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we actually did get to go into the park a little bit,
Yeah.
see some of the Boardwalk Nights, I don't think we did any coasters, but I think we did the carousel, right? Did we ride the carousel?
Yes, we did ride the carousel.
Rode the carousel.
The Hotel Breakers was really cool since it is a historic building, basically, and like Kyle said, we stayed in a rotunda room, so it was really kind of a funky layout because it was in the rotunda section, so I wasn't used to like a curve in the bathroom wall. That I was like, this is a view and a half, but the Hotel Breakers is a beautiful, beautiful building, and I'm glad that they didn't destroy it. They just kept building onto it, and they've kept that, artistic style to it.
I mean, it's an old, like, it's been there since 1905, so it's definitely old. Obviously, it's been updated through the years and everything like that, but it's cool to see that, what used to be like in the early 1900s where people used to, kind of sleep there and stuff, and it's kind of cool just to think about, at least in my head, it's like, it's cool to be like, oh, my ancestors and their grandsters or whatever, like, possibly stayed there. You never know. So
yeah, it was also cool because this was the second time I stayed at Breakers this year, something that I did maybe once in my entire life of living in Ohio, but now I've done twice in the same year. I thought that was pretty fun.
I love it.
But now this isn't in actual order, but the first ride we're going to talk about at Cedar Point is Blue Streak.
Yeah,
do you remember Blue Streak?
Yeah, and Blue Streak was kind of like the racer. I don't think we rode both sides, or maybe we did.
Blue Streak only has one side.
Or well, was only one side. This one, I don't want to compare it to the racer because it doesn't race like the racer, but it had the same kind of style as the racer. Where it's that old rickety.
It had the same trains too.
Yeah, same
trains.
kind of just single out of the racer. And I liked it, don't get me wrong. I just would prefer the racer over Blue Streak.
I would agree with that. I mean, Blue Streak's, it's a cool coaster, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish we would have a more wooden coaster, I guess you could say, at Cedar Point, and maybe in the future we'll get something like that, but maybe like a Mystic Timbers or something.
I wish we'd either get a new coaster or let Gravity Group have a run at Blue Streak, and like they did with Racer and the Beast, because I think both of those run really well these days, and I don't think Blue Streak does.
Yeah.
But all right, next up, we did ride the Cedar Point and Lake Erie Railroad, which goes through Boneville.
Yes, it was. My grandfather was a big, huge fan of trains, so it was always nice to, get on this train ride and go, oh, he would absolutely be on this all day.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, it's it's always a fun little train ride. It's not like little, but like it's cool. Like it's actual real train with, coal and the whole 9 yards.
So next up is Cedar Creek Mine Ride, and I do not think that she liked this very much.
The only reason why I didn't like the ride is because of how small the seats were and how tight the restraints were. If you have any sort of legs, or you're not the size of a 5-year-old, you're gonna walk off this ride hurting a little bit in the leg area. It was a really fun ride. I absolutely loved that it went over the lake, but it just hurt in my legs area because of the restraints and the size of the seat.
Yeah, it is really tiny for sure. I struggle.
So next up is the Cedar Downs Racing Derby.
Yeah, I called this the fast carousel because you're on a horse and you go around real fast. The one issue I kind of had, I don't know if anybody else does, I didn't know if you felt this way, Kyle, but the one time I was on it, I felt like I was leaning towards the center on the ride, almost like I had to push myself to the right to keep myself up straight. And I don't know if that's just because the ride's old, or that's just the design of how you're going.
The banking on the ride is not
or how you're going super fast and you're just naturally leaning more towards the center. But that was the one thing that I was like, okay, well that's fine, whatever.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Next up was Gemini.
Now this one is
favorite,
my
right?
absolute favorite out of all of the rides I rode in this trip.
Really? Okay.
Yes, I absolutely loved. We rode both sides. Kyle did show me how to brace for impact when you came to the station again for. But I absolutely loved Gemini. I couldn't get enough of the ride.
Yeah, I think we rode it like 4 or 5 or 6 times. We rode it a lot over the course of our trip.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
We did not do Giant Wheel.
No, I will never do Giant Wheel.
No, we did Iron Dragon though.
Yes.
Which we didn't get to do the bat, but we did do Iron Dragon.
Yes, we did. I loved Iron Dragon. I kind of wish I got on the bat now because of how much I love the Iron Dragon. But I understand because of the wind. After riding a type of ride like that, I understand why the wind could affect a ride like that so much.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
All right, so next up is, unfortunately, I'll say this. Next up is one of my favorite rides at Cedar Point, but unfortunately it has become one of Ray's least favorite rides. Not just at Cedar Point, but ever. And that is Magnum XL 200. She did not have a good ride on it.
Hated this ride. Okay, whoever thinks this ride is great, you're wrong. So the view was beautiful. I absolutely loved looking over the island and the lake and things like that.
Yeah.
I did not like the fact that the seat felt like it was trying to throw me out of it the entire time. I want to stay in the coaster while I'm riding it, please and thank you. Mm-hmm. That is my one complaint I have, and that is the one thing the entire coaster did was throw me out of my seat. So I was like, no, I hated every second of it. And I didn't even have time to talk myself out of it because they just threw me on the train and were like, good luck. And I was like, okay, well, I'm here.
I love it. I'm with you, Kyle. That's one of my favorites. Yeah. And I guess I just like to get beat up or whatever. But
well, so I figured out both through the course of this trip and over the course of the rides that I've known that she's ridden and liked and disliked, I figured out that she is much more a fan of floaty air than ejector air. And all Magnum is, for the most part, is ejector air.
Yeah.
It really took until after Magnum for me to figure that out. And then I really started thinking back of different rides that I know she's been on and rides she says she's been on. And
that makes sense because if she likes the Gemini, I mean, that's floaty air, not ejector air for the most part,
So next up, we did Midway Carousel once or twice. Mm-hmm. Nothing too crazy to say about a carousel.
The carousel is really pretty. I liked how they kept the original orchestra in the ride, and they just repair it. They don't just replace it.
Yeah,
and
I would
agree. It's a cute little, nice front of the park thing to see.
I mean, Justin would definitely agree with you since his nickname's Carousel Justin. So,
next up, we did do the Sky Ride. Now, we have done the Sky Ride at Busch Gardens Tampa before, too, so this is not the first time she had done a Sky Ride.
And, the only other type of ride, ride, if you would count it, is the Skyliner at Disney. It's more of a transportation thing. But the Sky... What is it called again?
Sky Ride.
Sky Ride, sure. 2 rides that really tell you what it does. The Sky Ride was a great way to get from one end of the park to the other without having to walk.
I would agree.
Next up, I think we only have one more ride here that both of us rode together. I think that's Wild Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, okay.
I like spinny rides. I know that Cosmic Rewind is a controlled spin, but I do like the spinny rides that will make you vomit on purpose. And Wild Mouse was absolutely one of them. The weight distribution of, you don't know which way you're going because it all depends on the weight of the car and who's in the car, was absolutely fun. It was adorable. Where it was on the boardwalk was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But I think that's all the rides we did at Cedar Point.
I think so.
I did have the fries, and I can see why the seagulls like to steal them all the time from guests.
Fries are good.
Yeah,
they're so good.
I did get the saltwater taffy.
Yep, we brought taffy.
That
home.
did not last long in my house.
So for context here, we did have an all-day dining on 2 of the days that we went to the park. So I know we ate at Grand Pavilion.
Yes, we ate at Grand Pavilion. We also ate at that...
we ate at Hugo's, the Italian kitchen.
At Hugo's.
Hugo's was pretty good.
Okay.
We ate at Farmhouse. We ate at Farmhouse.
Mm-hmm.
We got fries. I'm trying to remember where else we ate. That might have been it. Because I know those were kind of our favorites. I think we might have went back and hit those multiple times.
Yeah, I think we did. I think we ate at the Grand Pavilion multiple times.
Did you have Backbeat? Did you just get to go to Backbeat by Magnum? No,
because we went to Farmhouse instead.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's always like, it's sometimes like you're there and you're just like, I don't feel like having Farmhouse food or Grand Pavilion, and Backbeat always just comes in. At least for me, it comes in pretty clutch. It's always
yeah.
top
I mean,
tier.
It was different for me because I hadn't eaten a park meal in a really long time, and she had never eaten there. So I wasn't too picky about where we went. My only crazy request, or not crazy request, but my only must do was breakfast at Grand Pavilion. I love those breakfast sandwiches. Yeah, that's kind of it for Cedar Point. And
I have 2 questions. Yeah. When you first were driving on the causeway and you could see the whole entire park skyline, and you could see, Toppler 2 and Millennium Force and the really, really tall coasters, like, what was your first thought? Oh my God.
This wasn't actually the first time I saw the skyline driving to the causeway. I went with Kyle to his house for Christmas, and he drove me onto the causeway as far as possible and across the lake, and we stared at the skyline for like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that I'm not the only nerd.
Yeah, last year we went to, when we were in Ohio for Christmas, we did drive up to Battery Park to look at Top Thor.
Yeah.
It was cold, it was wet.
Yeah.
But this was your first time.
And I couldn't see much because of the rain and the fog. And driving up on the causeway, I was like, this is a long road in the middle of nowhere. And driving up, all you could see was cars and seagulls on the ground. Okay. And then whenever you would finally look up, all you could see was just these different types of coasters, whether it was a one that went upside down, one that went straight into the clouds, or even the sky ride. It was just so interesting to see all the connectivity in the park, whether they were working or they were just at a standstill. You could just still imagine all of the rides moving within their own synchronized time, and it was really fascinating to see. Oh my God, they've crammed this much on an island.
Yeah, I will say I still think it's the most impressive skyline of any park.
Yeah, and I saw the coaster that was designed to write out the word Ohio at a certain angle.
Yes, Valraven. You know,
Yep.
you look at Valraven and it spells out Ohio.
Yep, that was
So
really cool.
she did spot that.
Script Ohio.
Yeah, but all in all, I definitely went into this knowing that she was not going to ride everything. That being said, I was impressed with. There were some things that she rode that I did not think she would ride. There were some things that I thought she might ride and hate that she rode and loved. So it was. I had a really good couple days. I'd be really excited, or I am really excited at some point after you've broken your upside down rule to go back to Cedar Point, because obviously if you're not going to go upside down, there's more to do at Kings Island than there is at Cedar Point. So
yes.
we did more at Kings Island, even though we were at Cedar Point longer. So I'm very excited to go back once she gets over the upside down.
Once you get over that, here's my other question. Would you consider yourself wanting to ride Top Thrill 2 or Millennium Force, like those big coasters?
So, Millennium Force, I actually almost went on that. And then I went against it because it was very tired and it was the last day. And I was like, I really don't want to ruin the last day by going on a coaster and, having a panic attack. And then maybe if Top Thrill 2 ever opens, and they don't just take it out like King Ka.
Look at this coaster enthusiast we got coming out over here. Okay.
Then maybe I'll ride it. It's height doesn't bother me. The only thing that I'm really trying to conquer is the upside down part left.
Yeah, I think next steps for her, I think Maverick is a pretty good.
Yeah. And
I've been trying to get her on Cheetah Hunt, because if I get her, I mean, it's the same ride, right? I mean, obviously Maverick's more intense, but it's the same train, same restraint, same style of ride. If I get her on Cheetah Hunt, then Maverick is just an easy step. And then once you hit Maverick, that is a very good coaster for both inversions and intensity. Once you conquer Maverick, it's not harder after that for most rides. Most rides are easier than Maverick.
Yeah, my whole I guess fear is, the coasters I grew up with were Holiday World or Disney, which is like the kid capital of the world. And the whole thought of I have to go on this huge ride with just a seatbelt and I'm going however fast going upside down was always terrifying. And I had to tell myself that being scared is okay. Being nervous is okay. Being unsure of what's going to happen is okay, because you've never done it before. So you can't go in expecting, I'm going to love this if you've never done it before. So I think a lot of the whole of, Kyle saying, I'm not going to put you on something that's going to hurt you. Or, if you don't have to do it, you don't have to do it. I'm not going to get mad. Or things like that really help with trying to conquer the feet dangling, I'm going to, this is too high or this is too fast. It's really like, okay, well, if he gets on it and this 12-year-old can get on it, I'm 24. I'm fine to get on it.
Right. Yeah, but
I think my last question is, and you kind of just touched on it a little bit, was what do you have to someone that's kind of scared of heights, or they're scared of going upside down, or they're scared of going fast on a coaster, or something?
The best way I've really conquered all of my, well, not conquered, but worked on a lot of my fears was watching videos of rides. That really helps put in perspective, okay, this isn't that tall, okay, this isn't that fast, because you can watch something while you're standing there and it looks really, really fast, and honestly it's not. You could listen to somebody say, oh, well, I'm nervous too about a ride, but when I got on it, it was finally a difference. Again, not expecting anything, because if you expect something and you get on the ride and you're like, well, that was not what I was expecting, it's sometimes a negative thing. And, most importantly, I think my most important tool with conquering my fears is Kyle. Because he's like, listen, you're fine. You're not going to get hurt. And he always says, it's okay if you don't do it. Because it is okay if you don't do it that one time or the next time or the next 15 times. If you get on it eventually, you got on it. It's okay that you didn't do it that time. And I think that whole of I have that support system with Kyle of him saying, I'll ride it with you. I mean, he'll ride anything. But him saying, I'll ride this with you, but it's okay if you don't. I think that's the most important part of getting to sit next to someone and go, okay, I'm terrified. And the person sitting next to you says, it's okay if you don't want to do this. Or it's okay, I'm right here, we'll get through this together.
That's a perfect answer. And if anybody's out there scared or something like that, just take baby steps.
Yeah, that was kind of the hope when I asked her to come on, was that, she has made such great progress and, going from not even knowing that other parks existed to, now going to parks and riding some, but not all of the rides. That was kind of my hope, was that maybe someone in our audience would have a similar story or similar feeling, and it would kind of help put into perspective
and
how to handle something.
And there's
like that.
still times where I will ride a ride 10 times, like Cosmic Rewind here at Epcot. I still get nervous before I get on the ride, and I've ridden it so much I could probably tell you how it works by knowing nothing about it. But I will always get a little nervous before getting on a ride, and it's not something that I don't trust the ride or the ride operators or the people who built it or even myself. It's just a natural fear of, this is not something humans are supposed to do naturally. They do this for fun. And it's, there's always something that you could always, be a little scared of. And that's okay. You can always be nervous getting on a roller coaster for the first time or the 200th time. Being nervous is not a bad thing.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right. Well, if that's all the questions you have, that's all we have tonight. I know this was kind of like a last minute thrown together episode, but yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's good. Like it gives someone that's possibly younger, and I mean, we don't know how old and how young our audience is, so maybe there's a little girl out there or a little boy or something out there that are listening to the pod, and they're like, hey, I can, giving them encouragement and willpower to do it. Just take some baby steps. So
all right, well, that's gonna do it this week. Evan, since I know you're listening, I hope you feel better next week. We miss you, and we really need you here to keep these things running smooth, because me and Carson will just talk forever. But that being said, we'll be back next week. Who knows what we're going to talk about? That's all I have.
We're going to talk about IAPA, of course, and all the fun stuff that we're going to learn about, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about more Cedar Point stuff. So make sure you follow us and share this, and make sure you buy a calendar if you want a cool Christmas present.
All right, that's going to do it. Take it away, Justin.
Thank you for listening to the Rundown on Fun. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay up to date on all things Cedar Fair. As always, be kind to your ride operators, and we will see you on the Midway. Good night.